Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to work with the article I had you read yesterday. Well, it's not an article, it's a short myth I had you read yesterday on Common Lit. If you weren't able to do that, please go back and read and answer the questions on Common Lit. The link for each class period is posted under yesterday's date, which was May 18th, on Google Classroom. All right, so today, like I said, we're going to look at a theme in Jupiter and His Mighty Company and the Golden Ages. Our learning objective is, after reading Jupiter and His Mighty Company and the Golden Ages, write a paragraph explaining how a theme of greed is portrayed in this myth. So there are a couple things we need to look at here. We need to make sure we know what theme is, and a theme is an idea or message that is in the underlying of the text. So it's kind of hidden. Most of the time, the theme isn't stated to you. You have to look at your textual evidence and figure out what this is trying to tell you about a certain idea or topic, what lesson it might be trying to teach you. And we definitely have a theme of greed and maybe the negative effects of greed in this myth. Our learning targets, or what you will do today, I can identify key details that contribute to a theme of greed. So we're going to find that textual evidence that support the theme of greed. And I can explain how the textual evidence I chose relates to the theme of greed. So not only are you going to find the evidence, but you have to tell me, why do you think that evidence relates to the theme of greed? All right, now to complete these two learning objectives, we are going to complete this chart. Before we get started, I just want to review it might not even be a review for some people, but what is greed? I want you to think about that for a second. What is greed? I would describe greed as a want of something more than you need. So greed is wanting to have it all, or wanting to have more than you currently have or more than you currently need. So it's the want of power, it's the want of money, it's the want of more than what you actually need, more than what you need to sustain life. Greed is a hunger or a want for more than you need. So as we look at this text, I want you to first think, who was being greedy? And what did they do to show their greed? What actions did they take that kind of made them seem greedy? So if you click on this link right here, it will take you to the article from yesterday. That way you don't have to go back and find it. And this first section kind of introduces our Jupiter. And you might be able to find some evidence of greed in this section, but I really want to skip down to the action of this legend. So this part's more so our introduction. It introduces one of our main characters, Jupiter, and his mighty company, his brothers and sisters. But I want to focus on the Golden Ages. This is where the action really happens in this myth, and because that's where the action happens, that's pretty much where the lesson is taught. So in this section, we find out that Jupiter and his mighty folks had not always dwelt in the clouds and the mountaintops. So that's telling us that life wasn't always how it was introduced up here. Something had happened that led them to be able to live in these mountaintops. It says, in times past, a wonderful family called the Titans had lived there and had ruled over the world. There were 12 of them, 6 brothers and 6 sisters, and they said that their father was the sky and their mother the earth. They had the form and looks of men and women. They were much larger and far more beautiful. The name of the youngest of these Titans was Saturn, and yet he was so very old that men often called him Father Time. He was the king of the Titans, and so, of course, was the king of all the earth besides. So not only was he the king of these people, but he was the king of the entire earth. Men were never so happy as they were during Saturn's reign. We have a footnote here that will tell you what reign means. It was the true golden age then. The springtime lasted all year. The woods and meadows were always full of blooms, and the music of singing birds was heard every day and every hour. It was summer and autumn too at the same time. Apples and figs and oranges always hung ripe from the trees, and there were purple grapes on the vines, and melons and berries of every kind, which the people had but to pick and eat. Of course, nobody had to do any kind of work in the happy time. There was no such thing as sickness or sorrow or age. Men and women lived for hundreds and hundreds of years, never became gray or wrinkly or lame, but were always handsome and young. They had no need for houses, or there were no cold days, nor storms, nor anything to make them afraid. So this section's telling us what were the golden ages. The golden ages were this time of peace. They were this time of prosperity, which means that everyone was happy. Everyone had what they needed. Um, but remember, our title is Jupiter and His Mighty Company and the Golden Ages. So something's going to happen that are going to put an end to these wonderful times. So we're going to skip down to right here, paragraph 14, because you guys have already read this. You should have read it yesterday. And we're actually going to start at paragraph 13 right here. So it says, "What a pity it is that this golden age should have come to an end, but it was Jupiter and his brothers who brought about the sad change. It is hard to believe it, but men say that Jupiter was the son of the old Titan king, Saturn, and that he was hardly a year old when he began to plot how he might wage war against his father. As soon as he had grown up, he persuaded his brothers, Neptune and Pluto, and his sisters, Juno, Ceres, and Vesta, to join him, and they vowed they would drive the Titans from the earth." So right there we start to see that greed. So you have all these beautiful, beautiful things going on in the world under King Titan. But Jupiter, King Titan's son, wants to wage war against his father. And when we have a war, or when someone wants to take someone out of their position as king, we can infer based on history, based on our knowledge, that he waged this war because he wanted what his father had. So that's our first piece of textual evidence. And just as I did, you may copy and paste. Ooh, I did it twice. And be sure to include your page number from where you found your textual evidence. Well, let's change this to paragraph because this isn't split up to pages. So we're going to say paragraph 14. I had the PDF pulled up and there were page numbers on there, but all right, so we're going to change that to paragraph. That's totally fine. So we have this piece of textual evidence and the page number. So now we have to explain, how does this contribute to a theme of greed? So like I explained, we can infer that because Jupiter wishes to cause a war with his father, he wants or is greedy for what his father has. So even though Jupiter's the prince, Jupiter is his father's son, Jupiter is living in this beautiful, amazing world, that's not enough. He wants what his father has. So that's why he is plotting a war against his father and convinces his siblings to join him and drive the Titans, or these mighty beings, from the earth. So now what we see in the end of this is we see the effects of greed. And I want you to go ahead and use those effects. What happens because of this war to add to this theme of greed? So what comes from greed? Remember, we're possibly being given a message or taught a lesson in our theme. So because Jupiter was greedy and started a war with his father, what happened? That's the evidence I'm looking for. So, what effects come from this greed? And lastly, I want you to answer this question. What is this story trying to tell you about greed? Now, I want you guys to do your best on this today, and then we are going to meet on Zoom tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and we'll talk about this and go over it. That way we can make sure everyone's on the same page. So, try your best, and I hope to see you all on Zoom tomorrow at 10 o'clock. All right, love and miss you all. I really do. I hope to be able to see you guys when you come to clean out your lockers. I'm hoping to be there. Yeah, have a great day.